at first it was a little bit frustrating because if you're not tracking the data, it takes a while to get the data together, right? And you have to sort of see the data over time. You have to see these trends. And so for the first 6 months or so, we were tracking the data, but there wasn't really yet anything that we could say about it or do with it because we didn't have quite enough. And now we're at the point where, we have a good sort of trend line of that data, and we're using it to make decisions about the future.
Absolutely. I love the way that you just did that. How do you do that in such a way that, respects them or shows them that there's a lack of judgment from you?
Mhm.
How do you make it? How do you make it accessible for someone who maybe is hiding this or is embarrassed about it?
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting point too, because as we were talking about before we started recording, as I look at new clients, it's not like people will randomly find me, and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to like open up to you with my, the life story of my business and show you my, all of my finances, especially if they're in that position where they have this shame, guilt, or fear around it, right? And so
Yeah.
a lot of times when I work with a new client, it's because there is a connection. I've been referred, by somebody I know or by a friend of a friend. And so there's a little bit of baseline trust there
Yep.
to begin with. And I think that's so important because otherwise, I'm not going to get the full story and I'm not going to be able to help them in the best way. And so I have a very sort of no judgment mentality, right? Like they've
Okay.
been running this business, the business is profitable, the business is making money. They know what they're doing from a business product customer perspective, right? And that, I have a lot of respect for that. There are a lot of people that just, know a lot about their own industry and that I don't have that kind of knowledge. And so it's sort of this, balancing of, help me learn about your business and what you do well, and I'll help you learn about the things that I know. And then, together we'll sort of be able to make the best decisions for your company going forward because you know the history of your clients, you know your product, you know what works for your clients. And I can help with the understanding of the financials and, helping you figure out how to take those numbers and use them to make better decisions for your clients.
Outstanding. Well, can you give us an example? I'm not asking for names. It could be anonymous, but can you give us an example of a client engagement you've had where you came in and maybe share what the problem is that they thought they had, and then just kind of share and walk through what did you do to help them and where they are now? Any example like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have a client that's been in business for a while, and they were finding that they got most of their business from the owner's connection, the CEO's connections. And so they felt like they were doing fine, but they were missing a lot of the market, right? Because they weren't doing the marketing. They had never really had to do business development. They were just there getting referrals basically.
Yep.
And so when I came and started working with them, they really wanted to kind of break away from that and create a structure where we would have a business development arm that would go out and get new clients that may or may not have any sort of connection to the owner. And so one of the first things we did was we looked at their metrics that they were measuring on a day-to-day basis and really sort of up-leveled their game with respect to those metrics. And we are not only looking at financial metrics, but we're also looking at their marketing and business development metrics. So how many marketing qualified leads are they getting on a weekly basis? How many sales
Okay.
qualified leads are they getting on a weekly basis? How long does a prospect sit in their pipeline between when it enters the pipeline and when the deal is closed? What's their average deal size? And by being able to look at all of those metrics in conjunction with one another, we've been able to reprice the products. We've been able to create bundled products, and we've been able to
Wow.
access a new part of the market that we weren't previously able to access. And so now, they're really looking to grow and transform into that next level, having all of that data behind us. And, at first it was a little bit frustrating because if you're not tracking the data, it takes a while to get the data together, right? And you have to sort of
Yeah.
see the data over time. You have to see these trends. And so for the first 6 months or so, we were tracking the data, but there wasn't really yet anything that we could say about it or do with it because we didn't have quite enough. And now we're at the point where, we have a good sort of trend line of that data, and we're using it to make decisions about the future.
So there it is, ladies and gentlemen, to take them from don't want to look at the metrics, maybe a little bit of nerves or maybe some embarrassment around it, and then to put it to a place where, yes, we're tracking them and we're tracking them weekly and they're crystal clear and doing all that
Mhm.
with no judgment. That is the level of professionalism that we get when we get the opportunity to work with Cheryl Heller. So thank you, Cheryl. That was very insightful. Is there anything else that you want to share about the business that I haven't asked yet? Anything else on your mind to share?
Well, yeah, I think there's that. It's always important to look at your financials, but I also see myself much more as a not just the CFO, but a strategic advisor. And so, with
Yeah.
some of my clients, I'll work with them on, thinking about their team and how are we coaching and developing the team, and what are the different areas that the team needs to be developed in order for them to grow within the business, or looking at the product and are we getting the right product market fit? And so really having that broad viewpoint, just a sounding board, because I find too that sometimes CEOs, even of small businesses, like they don't have a big peer group where they can go and talk to about these, things that, may or may not be going well, or they are not sure how to address. And so really providing that sounding board, where they can kind of just be themselves and ask for help and get that question off their chest. I feel like that is a lot of what I do as well. And it's not just about the numbers and the data, it's about, helping that CEO run their business in the best possible way.